Welcome everybody to my talk. It's nice to see yourself on a big screen. It's not something that I see every day, and also to see so many people showing up for this talk, which has given me an idea that the topic that I will be talking about at least is somewhere important for you, something that relates to you, that can relate to the work that you are doing in there. So what are we going to be looking at in this talk? Well, we're basically going to be looking at how we can use agile retrospectives, and many of you may know them as a technique to look at teams to improve your way of working continuously, how you can use similar techniques, similar exercises from retrospectives in improving the quality of your products, the quality of the software that you are developing. And when I talk about retrospectives, I'm not talking about what went well and what should be improved meetings like they are described in Scrum. I'm talking about tons of different techniques, methods, and exercises that are out there to actually do in retrospectives and to make your retrospectives much more effective, much more valuable. So we're going to be looking at a couple of exercises that you can use in your retrospectives, really focusing on improving the quality. And this is something that will be complementary to things like testing, like debugging, like all the other quality stuff that you're doing in your project already. This is more focusing on making the stuff that you are doing a little bit better all of the time, doing some continuous improvement on them. When I'm not doing workshops or coaching people or advising organizations on how to do software development, I'm actually more or less on my own agile digital scaling transformation, because I'm making more and more of the tools, the knowledge that I have, the stuff that I'm using in my own workshops available on my website as digital downloads. So many of the tools that I'm using, the games that I play in my workshops, the coaching cards that I use are becoming available for everybody all around the world to download them and to use them with their own teams and their own organizations. I also published a couple of books. I'm working on a book right now on dealing effectively with impediments, which is a major thing for agile teams to really become self-organizing. So that book is something I'm writing right now. But first, a little bit about agile retrospectives. So what are retrospectives about? And when I talk about agile retrospectives, I mean the mechanisms, the techniques that team will use to learn, to reflect and learn, see how they are doing right now, and then decide on what they would like to do differently, what they would like to improve upon, what they think that would be valuable to change in their way of working, in their, what I call their process. The process is basically their way of working, the way that they're doing stuff in there. And agile retrospectives, in my opinion, are a technique that should really foster self-organization in teams. So it should help teams to self-organize their work, to decide how they want to be doing their work, and also to reflect on, okay, the way that we're doing it right now, is that working? Is that working in a way that we like to work together? And what can we change to make it a little bit better? What are the biggest problems that we have right now, the challenges that we have, the things that are holding us back from delivering quality to the outside world, to our customers and to our stakeholders? And what can we do to change that? The whole idea behind Agile, and that's where Agile methods were really a different thing compared to all the frameworks and all the stuff that was out there previously, is that the basic assumption is that you won't be doing it the first time right. You might not even be doing it the second time right. But as long as you are reflecting on how things are going and picking out those things where you think that would be most beneficial right now to work on and improve upon, you're going to get better all of the time, which is going to beat plan-driven methods like think about everything that could happen, make a big plan, and then work according to the plan and assume that everything will work out fine. I think by now we know the plan-driven methods don't work and never going to work. So it's okay if something goes wrong, as long as you learn from it. As long as you take the opportunity to reflect what happened, to learn, and then decide, okay, what are we going to be doing differently? I think there's a lot of overlap in there if you look at Agile and Agile retrospectives. You're going back to earlier quality methods like the plan, do, check, act cycle. It's about doing something, reflecting how that went, and improving it in small pieces continuously all of the time to get better. So that's where I see the link between the agile retrospectives and the improvement of quality in your products. So what we're going to be doing is looking at a couple of different exercises that you can actually use inside your retrospectives, inside your retrospective meetings, and some of them are not limited to the retrospective meeting, but that will be a spot to do them, as a technique to improve the quality of your product. And these are the 4 techniques that I'm going to be discussing today in this presentation. I'm going to be looking at root cause analysis, how to fit it in effectively, future perspectives, some of you might know the technique, how to put yourself in the future, and based upon that decide how you want to develop that product. Self-assessments as a way to see how you were doing and decide on improvement. And an exercise which I've called Stop the Line, which is taken from the lean world, the Toyota production system. Okay, so let's start with the first one, root cause analysis. Root cause analysis, some of you may know it as 5 times why, is an exercise which you do to really look at the causes of a problem, and you want to dig deep in there. You want to go deep to the root causes of what is the reason that this problem is happening in your organization or in your team. And I'm talking about causes because what I've seen is there is no single cause. It's not root cause analysis, it's causes analysis. There's always multiple causes. Oftentimes those causes are actually related. So when this happens and happens again together with something else in time within these circumstances, then things will go wrong. So it's about recognizing this whole picture of things that have happened, causes that have been there, to see what you would like to address in there and what you would like to do differently to prevent similar problems from happening. I'm talking about similar problems. You're not going to be preventing the same problem, hopefully. You're looking at problems which have some similarity with it, because you want to go from a specific problem where you have all the information, where you have all the data, where you can get the people in the room to really analyze that problem down to the level of root causes, but then use that information to learn and to solve similar problems. So in a more broader sense than just that one problem. So where would you do root cause analysis? My suggestion would be to do it on any major defects that you have either coming out of test or major defects that you got from your customer. This is the kind of stuff that you would say like, okay, this is not something that we would like to see happening again. These kind of big problems, it could be also a significant disturbance, something that really went wrong. This is not something that we would like to see happening anymore. So we want to take action to prevent this kind of stuff from happening. Another thing to look at would be at reoccurring problems. So problems that keep coming back. And you might even have done some attempts already to solve these problems. You might have looked at them and took some action, hoping that the problem would go away, finding out that the problem is still there. Then probably you didn't dig it deep enough. You didn't go deep enough to really address the root causes. You just had some superficial causes where you thought that taking action would have solved them, but you didn't dig deep enough. So that's where root cause analysis will help you to really go down to the roots of the problem. I've been doing some study on root cause analysis, and we actually also did some quantified business value analysis on root cause analysis in the company that I've been working in. And one of the things that we looked at is what's the cost benefit of root cause analysis. And what we actually found out is that there is really a big cost benefit if you look at root cause analysis. And I actually suggest, if you're doing a root cause analysis, to always start with looking at how much money, how much time, how much did you lose due to this problem. And you're going to be amazed in a lot of situations where you think, okay, there was a problem, but if you start really summing up all the damage that has been done, all the hours lost solving the problem, maybe the damage at your customer side, your reputation. You're going to be pretty impressed on how much has gone wrong and how much money that you lost along the way. And it's going to be pretty easy to build a business case based on that if you want to take action, because most of the time, if you really understand the root cause, if you really understand the problem, that the causes that have led to this, taking action usually isn't just such a big change. It can even be really smaller steps going into the right direction there. If you find out, if you're analyzing a problem, that your loss has actually been very little, there might be reason to stop your root cause analysis. Like, okay, we lost just a couple of hours, chances of happening again is not that big. Let's not spend a lot of time on doing a root cause analysis on this one. Based on the study that I mentioned earlier, there was a couple of things that we learned from doing a lot of root cause analysis and looking at the data and looking at the results of doing root cause analysis in the organization. And one advice that came out of this was what I call to do just enough root cause analysis sessions. And what do I mean with just enough? With just enough, I mean that you're doing those root cause analysis sessions where you will be able to actually implement the improvements in the organization. You can start by analyzing 10 or 20 or 30 problems, but if you don't have the time, you don't have the means to take action on all of these problems, why analyzing them in the first place? And this is also where I like to prioritize if you're doing root cause analysis sessions there. So instead of prioritizing on the actions and making big lists with all of the things that you can do to improve your organization, pull your prioritization to the front and look at what are the kind of problems that we would like to solve, and pick out the one or two major problems and do a root cause analysis on that. What I've also seen is that it's very important to have a really good facilitation of your root cause analysis session, and that many times it was actually co-facilitation. If you looked at the session, I was facilitating the session from a process point of view. So how can you really analyze the problem? How can you draw cause and effect analysis charts to get an insight in there, what's happening in the room? And other people were in there to look at the technical stuff in there and to really ask the technical questions to the team. And sometimes I didn't have the technical knowledge, but I knew how to facilitate the room, how to facilitate the session in there. Last important learning out there, and this might be an open door, but still, communicate the actions broadly. When you decide to do something differently, when you decide to take actions, make sure that those actions are known, not just in the team, not just in your department, maybe even broader. This is what we're going to be doing differently because we learned from analyzing a problem that doing this differently will be beneficial for us. So that's my advice if you're really looking at making your root cause analysis sessions as beneficial as possible. By the way, you see some underlining on my slides. My slides are going to be put on SlideShare, and all the links are giving additional information if you want to go deeper on a topic. So there's a lot of stuff in there. If you want to click deeper, go to my slides and pick up that information. Let's go to a second exercise. By the way, if you have questions on root cause analysis, put them into Slido. We're going to get to the question part at the end, so then we can answer those questions in there. So a second exercise that I recommend for teams to do if they want to improve their quality would be to do a future perspective. And what is a future perspective? A future perspective is a technique that you can use in retrospective to put yourself in the future and to imagine a perfect future. Imagine a castle in the sky solution, like this would be the most perfect situation ever on earth. And then explore, okay, how do we get there? What do we do to get at this kind of situation? What do we do to get this kind of brilliant, exciting future? And as a next step, look, okay, where are we right now? And how can we get from the point where we are right now to that really exciting future in there? I've seen this kind of future perspectives as a very powerful exercise for teams. And I also started using future perspectives for quality purposes. And what we actually would do then with the team is that they started by imagining that they just delivered the perfect product. It's really working perfectly, no bugs anywhere, no problem report from customers. It's delivering brilliant service to the customers. Everybody is very happy. You got a couple of calls from customer back who said, well, you guys did a great job. This is really what I've wanted for years, and you've been able to deliver this product to me. So thank you very much. If you got that picture of how this perfect product would look, take some time as a team to celebrate this moment, like, yay, we do well. We had a great product. And then imagine, okay, but how did we get here? What did we do to create this perfect product? How did we work together? What kind of techniques did we use? Maybe what kind of tools? What's the way that we work together in the organization? What's there in the organization that helped us to create such an awesome product? And once you got that figured out and you got that clear, that's also where I suggest to make it visible. So write it down, make a drawing, put it on a whiteboard, put it on slides, but make sure that everybody will see really this picture. Then it's time to go back to the present and to look at where you are right now and to see, okay, how can we get from where we are right now to this brilliant future where we're doing these kind of things to deliver awesome products. So what's the strength of these kind of future perspectives? Well, first of all, this is a fully positive exercise. Did I mention the word problem anywhere? No, we're talking about quality and I'm not talking about problems. This is purely positive. You got the perfect product and you're looking for, okay, how can we get from what we're doing right now to that perfect situation? How can we use what we're doing already? How can we use our strengths to make an even better product? So it's really a positive exercise, and in a sense it's also liberating. It's setting you free from where you are right now. This way of projecting yourself in the future is taking you away from all of the daily problems that you might have right now. Okay, if none of those problems will be there, what's the awesome stuff that we can do? And then you can look at the steps to get there. This is also a technique that makes it really solution focused. So you're not looking again at the problem, but you're looking at what kind of solutions, what kind of techniques, what kind of way of working, whatever can we use to get to the point to be able to deliver awesome products. Again, if you have questions on this exercise, put them down on Slido and we'll get there at the end of the presentation. Third exercise, and this is something what I started doing long time ago already. I originally came after being a developer and actually also working as a project manager. I became more and more involved in what was called at that time process management and process improvement. And as process managers, we were looking for ways to help our teams to do a better job. And I stumbled on a couple of audit methods and also assessment methods. Some of you might know CMMI methods as a way to assess how teams or people are doing and to find a way to improve that. And what I actually found out is that I didn't really like these assessment methods. Sure, the frameworks were valuable. There was a lot of good stuff in there on how you could do software development, so I could relate to the stuff in the framework. But I wasn't happy with the way that those frameworks were used. They were used to assess teams, they were used to assess organizations, to assess people, and to tell the people how they were doing. Yuck, like I don't want to be telling people how they are doing. I would like it to turn around. I would like to help people to find out themselves how they were doing. I would like people to learn them, to reflect on how they are doing. And then, based on that, think about, okay, and what is the thing that we would like to do differently? What's the thing that we would like to do better? But I would like this kind of reflection not being something that you oppose on people or oppose on a team, but something that they can do themselves. So that's a different kind of different kind of thinking that popped up in my mind. And we're talking about the 1980s, 1990s here. So what I decided at that point in time is like, okay, can I use these frameworks, can I use these techniques instead of telling people how they are doing, can I use them to find out themselves how they are doing? And that's actually possible. You can help them, you can facilitate people in doing these kind of self-reflection and using these kind of frameworks to find out what is the situation right now, how are they performing, what would be something that they would like to improve upon, and how they could do that. And this is called self-assessment. So it's not about assessing people, it's people assessing themselves. And actually this started to fit quite well with all the agile stuff that started popping up in the beginning of the century. I was doing these kind of self-assessments already with teams, helping them to reflect and improve. And then agile also suggested like, okay, if you really want to get into a level of self-organization, people should also be reflecting themselves on how they are doing, using techniques like agile retrospectives, like sprint retrospectives in there. So I've been further developing these kind of self-assessments and actually turned it into a kind of game and gamification tool, because gamification and using techniques from gamification actually puts people at ease, brings them into a more natural situation, which makes it easier for them to reflect how they are doing. They're not feeling it as an assessment anymore. They're playing a game, and this game is helping them to learn how they are doing, helping them to have really good discussions among themselves and to decide on what to improve. And teams can still use this also as a kind of health check. So they can see, okay, how are we doing on different areas and what would be the area to improve. They can also pick out just one topic and work on that. They can share experiences among teams in these kind of discussions. So there's many different ways right now that these kind of games, what I call the agile self-assessment game, can be used. Using these techniques, I've also made some extensions that you can actually use them in the quality area. And there's two extensions that I'd like to mention right now. I've called them coaching cards because they're actually cards with statements that tell you about how your testing might be going right now or how the quality of your project is going. So those are two packages of cards that can be used with the gaming techniques of these kinds of agile self-assessments. So if you're looking at how can we use these kind of games really fine-tuned towards testing or towards quality, then those will be the package of cards that you can use together with these kind of tools. Okay, a last exercise that I would like to explore today, and this is exercise what I call the stop the line retrospective. So this is an exercise that you can actually play in your next retrospective. It's described on my website, so if you want to prepare yourself as a facilitator, as a Scrum Master to do this exercise, just click on the link Stop the Line exercise and you can see how to prepare it and how to do it with your team. So let me quickly describe it, how it works. First of all, you want to have some kind of ending in your room where you're going to be doing the retrospectives. And there should be something that's probably making a lot of noise because you want to get attention when somebody steps up and pulls the ending. For those of you who don't know what the ending is, by the way, the ending is a rope. If you look in the production of cars, which is all along the production line, where any worker can pull down the rope if they see a problem, and that would actually stop the line. So the whole idea behind this was, instead of continue to produce cars when there's a big problem in there, stop the production line, solve this problem collaboratively, and once the problem is solved, then continue production, instead of shipping cars with a lot of problems in there. So if you do the exercise with your team, make sure that you got something in the room which can create a lot of noise. It could be a bell, it could be a horn, whatever you got in there, make sure that something is there. And at the start of the exercise, make it clear to any team member that if they see a problem in the team right now, or if they've seen a problem in the past sprint, and they think that's something that should really be addressed, that they should stop the line and look at how to do that differently, ask them to walk over, pull the end on, make a lot of noise, mention the problem briefly and note it down, because at that point in time you're in a collection phase. Once you get a couple of problems collected, look at those problems together with the team and decide, okay, what are the 1 or 2 problems that we would like to solve right now? What are the things that we would like to work on? Again, similar to the root cause analysis, just pick 1 or 2 problems. Don't try to solve everything. It's not possible anyway. Pick 1 or 2 that you want to focus upon and work on those. And then, once you pick those problems, you can basically pick any technique to analyze them and to decide upon the action. But what makes this exercise differently is that you're getting people actively involved in there. They're not just sitting on their chairs. Preferably they're standing. They're going to walk up. They're going to make noise. It's going to be much more lively. And that means that you're going to have a much bigger engagement of the people in your exercise. So actually, if you've done this exercise in your retrospect for a couple of times, bring it back to the team and bring it back to the team room. So the bell, the ending that you have, put it in your team room that people can actually stop the line when they're doing development on a day-to-day basis. So don't have to wait for the retrospective, but when they see the problem, step up, ring the bell and say, guys, there's something here that we really need to work on instead of just continuing our work. This is a problem that we need to solve. So we explored a couple of different ways to improve quality retrospectives. There are hundreds of more techniques that we can use to improve retrospectives in your organization. There's a lot of techniques I've listed on my website too, but these are the 4 that I like to present to you right now as a kind of inspiration to look for different ways to use your retrospectives to improve the quality of your products and services. And I want to give you a little bit bonus because we're talking about retrospectives right now, but I noticed that a lot of organizations are still having a hard time with retrospectives. It's the same kind of format every time. It's the same problems coming up, nothing is getting solved, so people are getting more and more bored about this. I also hear teams are actually canceling the retrospectives. And if your retrospectives are boring and nothing is happening, then actually those teams are right. If you're not getting any value out of your retrospective, then the best thing to do, almost best thing to do, would to cancel them. One step before would be, okay, why are my retrospectives not valuable? Or what do I need to do differently in my retrospectives to get value out of them? These are 5 tips that I would like to give you to do effective retrospectives. Know why you're doing them. It's not a blaming session, it's a learning session. You want to know what's happening and you want to learn from that. Have a person in your room who can really facilitate your retrospectives and also do that as an independent facilitator. The Scrum Master is often not the best person to facilitate your retrospective. I hope this triggers a question because I don't want to go deeply in right now, but most of the time the Scrum Master is not the best person to facilitate it. Pick an exercise that will help you to really explore the problems at hand. We looked at 4 different exercises you can use for quality. There are 70 exercises listed on my website that you can look at them and use them in your retrospectives. There's a couple of 15 resources with more exercises. Altogether, I think there's more than 1,000 different ways to do it. So I don't want to see any more what went well, what should be improved sessions. Guys, take a different technique because it's going to help you much more to improve in there. Make sure that you do them frequently and make it continuous improvement, small steps. Don't try to do too much. Think about the action that you can do in your next sprint. And really focus on what I call the vital few actions. Only 1 or 2 actions that you're going to be doing in your next sprint, and check if those actions are really working out, if those actions are really helping you to improve. If you start doing this kind of stuff, you use this as a checklist for your retrospectives, for sure your retrospectives will get better. You'll get more result out of them, and your teams, your people will start to actually enjoy those retrospectives because they're going to be productive time, not just a meeting that they have to sit in. Okay, I think it's time for questions right now. So I'm going to be taking questions first from the audience.